since his nomination 7 months ago. Surrounded by his government, he took questions from journalists. Mbeye categorically denied accusations that former Chadian President Hissène Habré had deposited laundered money into a Senegalese bank. Habré has lived in exile in Senegal for 20 years.
I was only a banker looking for a place to deposit money in 1990, and the banking company of West Africa was in a terrible state. Why shouldn't I accept this money that apparently had nothing wrong with it?
The Senegalese and foreign press have recently suggested that Prime Minister Mbeye, a former bank director, played a role in opening an account for the ex-Chadian president when Habré arrived in Senegal in 1990.
This money was exchanged at the Central Bank of the West African states. Have you ever heard of money being laundered by going through a central bank?
The money was deposited in several different Senegalese banks, apparently with the authorities' consent. The amount has not yet been revealed.
Guatemala has been hit by a 7.4 magnitude earthquake, the most powerful recorded in that country since 1976. At least 48 people are reported dead and more than 100 people injured. As we hear in this report by CFI, the death toll from the tremor is expected to rise.
It's the most powerful earthquake which has been recorded in Guatemala since 1976, 7.4 on the Richter scale. It killed at least 48 people and injured 155 more. The death toll is expected to rise as dozens remain unaccounted for. The Department of San Marcos paid the highest price, with 39 people buried under the rubble. President Perez immediately visited the area.
The three priorities are vital supply lines, electricity and drinking water. We must urgently look into this because San Pedro and San Marcos have no light or drinking water.
Rescue operations continue throughout the night. It's also crucial to take care of the survivors who are still in a state of shock.
It was hard. It was scary. Everyone running all over the place, others screaming. Thank God our lives were spared. There are many families who were affected, but we're united. We're a people united, and we will get out of this.
Yes, we were very scared. Everyone under here died. 3. Not just here, but in many areas. The earthquake, whose epicenter was in the ocean, also affected neighboring countries. Scenes of panic were reported in El Salvador and Mexico. Here in Mexico City, all official buildings were evacuated. There were no casualties.
We now take our second break. Sports is next.
Discover the smiling coast of Africa.
Welcome back. Aspiring female footballers in Cameroon are having it tough to make a breakthrough in what is likely considered a boys' sport. Many of the female players say the perception of others about female participation in football affects the development of the game in Cameroon. We have more on that in this report.
She's the former captain of Cameroon's national women's football team and a 3-time national champion. Aimée Jumeau is admiring photos of her days of glory. One of her favorites shows her receiving the 2011 cup from the hands of the president. But that's the day her life changed. She had dared to point out that there were things in women's football that needed improvement.
I was suspended because I handed the president an envelope. They said it was an offense. The envelope contained a list of complaints. Basically, we wanted the president to help develop women's football.
It's certainly not easy to be a woman and play football in Cameroon. Here, the sport is considered to be the domain of boys. Aimee Jumo and her friends get together twice a week to train here at this football school in Douala. All these girls have a passion for the sport, and just about all of them tell the same story.
My mother didn't want me to do this. There was pressure from my uncles. She finally gave in, especially when I was accepted into the national junior team.
Women's football in Cameroon began in the 1970s. Today there are more than 35 clubs, 10 in the first division, but there are few sponsors. This does not make things any easier.
We sacrifice ourselves. We train hard and we accept this. Then we go home. But it's difficult to train under the beating sun without even a drink to help us.
These girls are lucky. They were selected to be on the national football team. They represented their country at the London Olympics this year and at the Africa Cup of Nations in Equatorial Guinea. Some hope to make a career in football.
It's my profession. To say this is for boys, okay, it's true. In Cameroonian society, there are both men and women. So to say it's only for boys, I wouldn't say that. When you see how women have performed in the World Cup, you can see how they have progressed.
The national women's team has yet to win an international competition. Few women in Cameroon are interested in football, so it's difficult to spot those with talent.
It's a problem in society too. Parents should accept the fact that their daughters play football. There's a mental block because society doesn't accept easily that girls play football. I think that if parents were more accepting, sports officials would be more willing to include women in training programs. When this happens, I think things will progress.
Last year, the Cameroonian Football Federation pledged to increase subsidies to women's football clubs. But efforts must still be made to change the mentality in a country that considers that girls who play football are involved in a boys' sport.
And before we go, a reminder of our headlines. Cabinet has convened a special session to discuss the estimated recurring expenditure for 2013 and other issues of national interest. The Ministry of Youth and Sports and satellite agencies have intensified efforts at dissuading young Gambians from taking illegal routes to Europe. Ghanaian President John Mahama has called off his campaign to deal with the collapse of a shopping mall in Accra. And a 7.4 magnitude earthquake has hit Guatemala, killing scores of people and injuring many others. That brings us to the end of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Stay tuned and enjoy Grts. Until then, my name is Alhaj Abubakar Dabo.
الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونصلي ونسلم على من لا نبي بعده محمد بن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. إخوة المستمعين والمستمعات، نرحبكم مرة أخرى